The Shantae series are games I've wanted to talk about for a long time, for two very large, very noticeable reasons. The music is amazing, and the series left a strong impression on me back in 2012. Ever since I was first exposed to the series, I have been hooked and eagerly awaiting whatever game WayForward puts out next. So without further delay, let's start where the series began, Shantae for the Game Boy Color. Shantae had a pretty interesting origin. Developed by WayForward Technologies, a company that had predominantly worked on licensed video games such as Sabrina the Animated Series, the game, and the Smurfs 2, the video game. Shantae was an original IP, and for an independent video game developing company, finding the appropriate funding for such a project wasn't exactly the easiest thing to do, especially because who would want to bank on a new idea that no one was familiar with? Eventually, Capcom decided what the hell and published Shantae for the Game Boy Color. By the time Shantae was officially released, the Game Boy Advance had been out for about a year, so yeah, guess which console was being ignored? And to further bury Shantae into obscurity, it is rumored that only 20,000 to 25,000 copies of the game were printed in its one and only run. Damn. Shantae went on to become one of the rarer games to collect on the Game Boy Color, demanding high prices on eBay. With not many games out there in the wild, managing to snag a copy was relatively difficult, even if you had the money to spare. I was finally able to play this game when it was re-released on the 3DS Virtual Console. So how does this game hold up? Is it really worth the insane amounts of money? Well, for starters, the game looks amazing. Due to being released at the end of the Game Boy Color's lifespan, Shantae pushed the console to its absolute limits. With colorful and detailed sprites, Shantae is such a nice game to look at. Her animations are fluid and all the characters just ooze personality. It's amazing just how much WayForward was able to squeeze out of the GBC. In terms of music, Shantae also brings out the best in this little handheld. Many of these beats will stay stuck in your head long after you've turned off the game. If I had to describe what Shantae plays like, I would have to say it's a mix between Castlevania, Metroid, and Zelda 2. You're put into an open world side-scroller. The only thing preventing you from seeing the whole game so quickly is that many of the areas are blocked off by obstacles that require a type of power-up, much like in Metroid. Power-ups come in the form of animal transformations, which you activate by dancing. And while I'm on the subject of transformations, the game doesn't present it in a very convenient way. To transform, you have to press select and then Shantae starts dancing. You then have to input a certain button combination. Each dance is usually about 4 to 5 combinations. So if you need the monkey power-up just to climb over something really quickly, you're gonna spend more time transforming than you're actually in your monkey form. Anyway, fortunately this was something that was corrected for all the later games. Your standard attack is whipping with your hair, much like Simon Belmont in Castlevania. One of the bigger problems with this game is that the hitbox for her hair is really small, which makes attacking not quite as fun as in Castlevania. The animal transformations don't fare much better as they do not have attacks when first unlocked, but instead you gotta find power-ups hidden throughout the overworld. Fighting feels very much like a chore. Fortunately, the real challenge of Shantae comes in the form of dungeons, which remind me a lot of Zelda 2. You travel around the overworld, find a dungeon, beat it, unlock a new power-up, and move on to the next accessible area of the game. I wouldn't say the gameplay ruins the experience. It definitely doesn't help its case, but for the most part, it's manageable. Overall, Shantae is a game that I would not say is worth the high price of owning an original copy based on gameplay alone. At the time of its release, Shantae was an impressive feat, but by today's standards and by subsequent sequels, the game is very outdated. Attacking is not as responsive as one would hope. There is no real map system in the game, so trying to figure out where to go next is difficult, and trying to figure out where you are in general can be difficult. It definitely feels like a fresh attempt at trying something new while borrowing old ideas. But Shantae is a game that I would say is worth the high price of owning an original copy based on character alone. It was easy for me to become a fan of the series, and owning an original copy would be something amazing. From beginning to end, you really get a feel for these characters. The simple facial animations, quirky dialogue, and supporting cast make for a very fun game. It makes you want to explore the Shantae universe even more and look forward to the sequels, and believe me, they got a lot of the problems ironed out by the sequel. I have to give full disclosure. When I first played this game, I was already a fan of the series, so there is a bias in my opinion. I love this game because I love the Shantae universe. Ever since I played the sequel, I've been hooked. I would recommend people give this game a shot if they own a 3DS and to keep an open mind. It's not a perfect game, but if you can look past the imperfections, there's a lot to love. Shantae, every Game Boy Color fan's wish come true.